Welcome to the 10th edition of Behind the Helmet with NTT IndyCar Series driver Sting Ray Robb. I'm your host, David Hoffman, and I'm joined by, of course, the driver of the number 41 Chevrolet for AJ Foyt Racing, Sting Ray Robb. Sting Ray, how's it going? It's been so long since we've had a show here, but we're back again.
Yeah, I'm good, David. Thanks for having me back. It's been a while, like you said, so hopefully we can catch up on a few things.
Yeah, we do have a lot, a lot to catch up on. Obviously, there's been two IndyCar races, one in St. Petersburg, and then obviously Thermal, the All-Star $1 million challenge race. Before we get into that, and you were with Dale Coyne Racing last year, then made the change to AJ Foyt Racing this year. Just what went into, how did that come about?
Yeah, I think during the off season there was different discussions had with different teams, and we felt that with AJ Foyt Racing being aligned with Penske, as well as them being an Indy-based shop and having a veteran teammate in the seat, that it was going to be valuable to be making that switch over. And I think that the most benefit is being an Indy. I think that that allows the teams to have a lot more influence on where their mechanics are coming from, the engineers are coming from, just because this is the hub for all things motorsports. So there's a lot of job security here for the guys that are here. But with Dale Coyne Racing being based out of Chicago, that was a tough season last year with people kind of leaving mid-season, coming back mid-season because there's a lot of fly-in mechanics um, that would have been consistent had they been able to, but just the way things go with it being out of the hub of things, then it's a little bit more tricky to navigate those options.
And you mentioned with the Team Penske alliance, and from your perspective as a driver, how does that alliance, like, where do you see of that alliance, like, day in and day out?
Yeah, I mean we're doing as much as we can together. Obviously Penske's been one of the strong teams in the series for quite a while now, and winning St. Pete was a really good start for them. And so I think that the day in and day out stuff that has changed mostly from last year to this year is we are getting data that's shared at the end of the day. Where you get basic setups to, kind of roll off the truck with and at least have conversations about. We have an embedded Penske engineer on the team that is on Santino's car, so that allows us to have communication directly to him and to the Penske side. And then we have some shared knowledge on the damper packages. And so, for the most part, it is a very similar program, at least on the knowledge base side. The functionality of the team is still independent from one another, and we're still making our own decisions. There's a lot of autonomy there in that sense. And so, the day in, day out stuff is very much influenced by the Penske Alliance, but a lot of the decisions are made apart from that.
And for your perspective, just how has that process been for you to come into a new team and get, gelled with everyone, Santino, your crew members and everyone else?
Very good. Like I said, being in Indianapolis is a help. This is my home now, and so I just go to the shop during the week, and I get to visit with some of the guys and talk to the crew. And I've brought donuts in once or twice, and just trying to be friendly and be a friend. That's making appearances quite often. And one thing that's super nice is that face-to-face meetings that we can have during the week and in between race weekends, I think is very valuable, especially when it comes to the month of May, because we all have a home base that's less than a mile away from the racetrack. So I think that that just adds a lot of value to the team, as far as being able to be flexible and have good relationships as the season continues.
You mentioned the month of May. Obviously, Santino had one really good good month of May last year. Just how exciting is it to know that when you come into roll into Indy for the full month, that you're gonna have really good just data to come off of, a guy who's competed and done so well at Indy over the years, and just obviously AJ Foyt as well. I mean, the dude's won so many Indy 500s as well. Just having just all of that into one place and that you're able to just access that information.
Yeah, it's totally invaluable. And like you said, Santino finishing third last year was a big deal for the team. And it just goes to show everyone that this car can win the Indy 500. And so hopefully this year we can repeat that performance. I'm really excited to get in my car just because I know that both the cars were inside the Fast 12 last year. And so that just means there's a lot to look forward to. And I think we do have a few tricks up our sleeve still, even compared to last year, where we should be able to gain a little bit more speed. It's just the natural evolution of the cars over the different years. different rules, different packages, all that. Um, Everyone's going to get faster. I think that's just a consistent thing you see year after year. People start to figure out different techniques, different tricks, different tendencies. And so you have to get faster if you want to maintain position. So it's just how much more of a gain are you going to make over the other teams?
And final thing with looking back at last year, just I mean, comparing last year to this year, obviously rookie year, a lot of just changes, a lot of just different things, nuances, and everything else. I mean, it's still early, but how have you felt that you've been able to grow as a driver, just grow like, just as a competitor?
It's been very tough to start the year. Actually, I think that St. Pete, we were moving forward in the race before the brake failure issue. Um, and that was frustrating. You always want to start the year off on a good note. We haven't had a crash yet, which is fantastic. Mechanical failures just as bad on the scoring list though. So it is unfortunate to start the year off at a track that I think that we could have had a decent result at. But going forward, I think that like we've been talking about, those relationships have been built a lot more than compared to where I was last year. I felt like I was thrown into the deep end last year about the same time, and this year I feel like I have a good handle on things as far as expectations go. What's expected of me, what should I expect of the team, engineers, mechanics, all that. So um, I think going forward, taking what I learned in the first part of the year so far, there's still a lot of work that I need to do, and that's away from the racetrack. I think once we arrive at the racetrack, it's because there's no off-season testing these days. We're so limited during the off-season that you can kind of get rusty, and you have to redevelop those skills that you may have developed during the year last year, and then start back over again when it comes to March, April, around that time when we start racing again.
And you mentioned with testing being so limited, you guys have the luxury this, what, 2 weeks ago at Thermal, you think there's like four open tests and then the $1 million challenge. This kind of going off of this Thermal general, just having tested there at Thermal and just, I mean, how different is that venue compared to another racetrack that you've been to? Because I know that place is obviously a multi-million, billion-dollar facility.
Facility is unbelievable. One of the cool things about the weekend too was the food. I mean, they had food trucks lined up, and you could go up and get whatever you wanted at any time. And so that was so good to have because normally at a racetrack, there's fairly limited food items. But for us drivers, we were living it up. I think that Scott McLaughlin posted after the race, he had his cup of ice cream after the podium. So it was kind of a cool experience. It felt like a spring vacation, I think, for many of the teams, even though it was a lot of hard work. It's a lot of on-track time that we got testing there. And it's on the other side of the country for a lot of the teams. But it was nice once we arrived at the event. The weather was beautiful, facility was beautiful. But the track itself, it was very unique because it's almost two different style tracks. You have the slow speed, tight corners on one end, and then the high speed, high commitment, long radius corners on the other end of the track. And so you always had to kind of compromise on a car setup that would work well in one and maybe not as well in the other. And there was always a fine line there, and I wasn't able to find it necessarily as much as I wanted it to, but I think that that's very different from other tracks. Other tracks seem to have a rhythm that's consistent through the whole track, whether that be a street course, road course, whatever. It just seems like they're more connected. Whereas thermal, it was like 1 through 7, you're gonna have this one style, and then 8 through the other remaining corners, you're gonna have this completely other style. So it was difficult to learn, difficult to try and figure out what the car needed as far as what compromise to make, but it was an interesting place to race.
And I know obviously the race itself on Sunday got a lot of backlash, just like the feature event itself. I just see you're smiling. What did you think of the
Yeah.
event itself?
I think it was a good thing to not have it be a points race. I do commend IndyCar for at least giving it a try, and I think that we'll be returning there in the future just because it is a great event to be at in person, and the venue itself is unbelievable. I think that doing this new format, it was a bit of a test run for them. I think that they had worked out as many kinks as they could, trying to figure out how the racing's going to be. But I mean, as little things as the tire compound lasting for a certain amount of time, tire deck, all that stuff you can't figure it out in one weekend. And so they're going to come back with a better package that's going to be more racy, I'm sure, in the future. But yeah, I think that the backlash it's not necessarily true. I don't think that everything that people are saying is true. I think that you saw teams maybe not pushing as hard as they would in a normal points race because of the consequences. that there might be had there been an issue in the middle of the race or whatever. And so the racing wasn't as good as I think it would have been at a normal race weekend. But at the same time, I think that they have to make a few changes to make it even more so.
And it was interesting, obviously the probably the storyline was Colton Herta going half throttle and whatever at the first start, start of the feature, and then, Volton's way up there. But I and you can totally disagree. I don't, from my perspective, I feel like an all-star race should feel like, like it should have. I would rather have it on the oval. That's just my perspective. Just when obviously there's a lot more danger, like you said, with there's a lot of risks with that. But it's up for debate, and I know the next time the IndyCar does do it, it's going to be a lot better from what we did see. And yeah, from your perspective, there is a lot of potential with it.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think the way that you could do something is you could have elimination in every single round. And at the break, halfway through the finale there, whoever gets eliminated. And I think that that would eliminate that option for Colton, for example, to have that ability to hang back and save his tires. You got to fight for the spot. So for the first half of the race, it didn't really matter. People were just driving around doing their thing, and the second half of the race was the actual race. So there's some small adjustments that I think that would help that a lot, and it wouldn't be a big change, and the racing would be that much better.
And now we got 3 weeks, or a little under 3 weeks. I'm not sure exactly with my math, but until Long Beach, obviously that's one of the marquee races just in all of motorsports. Just from your perspective, how would you describe Long Beach, just the area, just the atmosphere? Because it's typically one of the more like sought after tickets in America for for motor racing.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely got a history that's well known, just because it's been around for so long. Long Beach is a track I think many drivers look forward to winning at some point. I think that it's like Indy 500 in the next race that they would probably want to check off is Long Beach, just because it has that legend behind it. So, I think the track itself is unique in a sense because it has more than just like the straightaway 90-degree turn, straightaway 90-degree turn. It has some of that, but there's some off camber, there's some bank corners, there's some really tight corners like the hairpin, for example. The water fountain turn is always an exciting spot, especially for the racing. And so there's just a lot of different dynamics that you don't normally see at a street course. And I think that's why it's been so good for so long. And then obviously the venue itself is very, very sought after, like you said, just because there's so much show around it. And that's what makes it a good event. I think that having the drift cars there, having stadium super trucks there, having the vintage cars there, people want to see racing in its full effect. And so I think having all of those different aspects of motorsports around just adds to the culture and adds the excitement to the whole weekend.
And as long as you don't wind up in the flowers slash the the little whatever, not pond, but
The water fountain
the
turn
water
there.
fountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'll be
Yep.
good. Um,
I think it was a couple years ago that Simon ended up backwards in that, and they I think sent him a bill for the flowers at the end of the race, but I'm not sure. I heard a rumor.
I was wondering if he actually got billed for that. Actually, yeah, I feel like I saw that rumor. I mean, we'll have to see. Goodness. But yeah, let's go to the fun section. I feel like actually no, before we go to the fun section, what are your goals for the rest of the season, and what do you feel is feasible for you guys in that 41 team?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that first comes to mind is Indy 500. I think a top five at Indy 500 would be unbelievable to achieve. And those are lofty goals, knowing what competition there is around us. But I think that if we prepare right and have the right car at the right time, we'll be able to achieve that. So I'm super excited about the month of May this year overall, just because I know what we're capable of doing. And based off of my last year, I have a lot more to look forward to, I feel like. So. There's that, and then I think just as a general overarching season goal, I don't like to put specifics on it just because motorsports is motorsports, and it's always difficult to say what's going to happen. And I think that if you put too high of expectations on yourself, you can kind of lose yourself in the middle of the season, not achieving the things that you expect to have happen. And so in order to avoid that, I think that my goal is to finish inside the top 10 at least a few times. And also just become a better driver. I think there's so much to learn in this IndyCar series, and it's so ultra competitive. If you start looking at the numbers too much, you can get lost in them, and you lose your performance because of that. So my goal is to stay focused on what I can do as a driver and what I can do to work well with engineers and the team. And I think that this team is in a good spot because with the resources that they've garnered in the off season, I think that they're heading in the right direction, and I want to be a part of building it into a strong powerhouse team at some point, or at least moving up the grid from where it's been in the past. And I think that that's very easy to see happening in the future here.
Well, it's going to be a very exciting month of May. Here coming up and crazy. It's going to be a month from now, which is exciting. But let's go to the fun section. Enough of this racing stuff. So I'll give you two or three questions and we'll both take a crack at it. So you ready for it?
I'm ready.
All right. So Easter was Sunday, and of course, everyone loves to have a good Easter meal. What is an underrated dish at the Easter table for you guys?
Oh, bread. Having good bread can make or break an Easter meal in my mind. I don't know why that is, but I think it's just nice to be able to like kind of clean the plate, get all the flavors, and like soak it up into a good piece of bread at the end. Nothing beats that.
Because I when you said bread, I'm like, that's the most random thing. But I mean, it's true. It could
It's
be for
underrated. It's an
it is.
underrated
Okay.
piece of the meal.
All right.
It's good.
Oh,
How
goodness.
about you?
I mean, well, since we don't really have family out here, we ended up doing just going out for like brunch or something. So for this specific thing, I'm just gonna go gravy on sausage, like sausage gravy. So like sausage gravy on biscuits, which it's not something you
It's
typically,
gravy.
yeah, biscuits and gravy, yeah, whatever that's called. Yeah.
Yeah, I love biscuits and gravy. That's a top-notch breakfast right there.
I keep hearing that Tennessee is the best place to have that. I still haven't had it there, but
Oh.
I don't know if there's a good place to. But next question, what is your go-to energy booster food? Like, let's say you're at a race weekend, you need a little something, or you're going out for a run or something. What kind of gives you a little umph to keep going and gives you what you need?
Yeah, I'm not a big caffeine guy because I get the jitters super bad. But if I'm like really, really down in the ditch and I need a pick me up, even just a little shot of espresso, or I like tea a lot. I drink a lot of tea. And so that's usually my go-to for a little boost in the middle of the day. But as far as a snack goes, I really like dried fruit. Um, and it's not super heavy when you're eating that, but it actually has good nutrients to give you energy throughout the day. So that's kind of a little hack that I found in the last year or so is just snacking on dried fruit whenever I'm getting a little tired.
Yeah, I'm getting into tea here recently, just different stuff.
Yep.
But I'd say as far as food, there's these, I think they're called Perfect Bars, is like the brand or something. They're like little mini, like, things like that big or something. And I think it was like a chocolate, like dark chocolate outside and peanut butter on the inside. And you can, a quick little thing, you can have that. I think it's got like 19 grams of protein in it or something. And then you can have
Yeah.
it, but still be able to go do something without feeling weighed down or bring it back up if you go run or something. So it's always a good
No, that's
go-to.
good. See, that sounds really good to me, but the dark chocolate, it makes me sneeze. It's
Dark
the weirdest
chocolate?
thing in the world. So I can't eat dark chocolate. Otherwise, that sounds like a great snack.
So is regular chocolate fine?
Yeah, milk chocolate's fine, anything like that. But like the dark, bitter chocolate, whatever it is, it makes me sneeze.
That's so interesting. Breaking news,
Yeah.
Sting Ray Robb is allergic to dark chocolate. There we go.
Yeah.
First time.
Yep.
Wow, goodness. That's crazy. And final question, just obviously, we talked a little bit ago, just you got engaged a little over a month ago. I mean, what's the best advice that you've received during this time, whether it's marriage or whether it's just leading up to that moment?
Um, relationships are an interesting thing. And now being engaged after, not necessarily thinking about it for so long, but kind of preparing for it. I think there was some good advice along the way that I got, but specifically reading books. There's some really good books out there on how to be single, how to be dating, how to be engaged, how to be married. And so just building that knowledge up and not just wandering about in a relationship, doing it for fun. I think that that's been the best advice I ever got was like, make sure you're learning how to do it as best you can. There's actually a good book. I have it sitting right here, actually. Been working our way through it. I read this a while ago. This is my endorsement of it, but it's called Single Dating Engaged Married by Ben Stewart. And you can't see it because it's blurred out right now, but it's a great book and it's a great conversation starter for anyone in relationships. But it's a great thing to start now thinking about it if you're single because you have to be a whole person. And I think that that's one of the most underrated things in a relationship is that you have to have two whole people in order to come together and be one. And so, my fiance and I, we've been working our way through this book and working our way through a few others and just kind of dating in community with the people around us that are kind of pouring into our lives, which was advice that I got from this book. And so I think that's just really helpful, to keep people in your relationship together. And that way they can kind of be that outside perspective. If things are not going well, they can tell you. If things are going right, they can tell you. But it just keeps you honest, keeps you accountable.
And it's exciting because that'll be coming up here soon. And it's the one thing that I always think back on is just you have to be your own person and like be, I guess, firm in who you are and just be able to pour into that other person, but you have to still be able to pour into yourself too, or you're not going to be able to pour into them as well. And I think that's been a big thing that I've learned as well is just, whether it's the simplest thing of doing what you know you have to do that'll help you, whether it's go work out or, just different things just to kind of pour into yourself and like you're able just to pour into your spouse even more, and it's just been, it's been a fun experience. I got married a little over a year ago. Actually, yeah, it is. Yep. But it's just enjoy this time and then obviously enjoy, the leading up. And it is going to be so nerve-wracking when you're up there, like the leading moments, you're like, oh my gosh, this is actually happening. It's just, but it's something you're always going to remember. And it's just something that you're going to look back on, whether it's pictures, videos, it's going to be an unforgettable experience that you guys are going to really, really enjoy and look back on. So,
I'm very excited for it.
it's going to be really awesome. But, we'll talk about that on a on a different episode as well as this day gets closer. Maybe we'll have a little, session of, top five things to do or not do before, whatever. I don't know.
There you
Um,
go.
so that's all the time we have for today's Behind the Helmet with Sting Ray Robb. You guys can look out for more content from us, from everyone. Here soon. We appreciate you guys for tuning in, and you can follow this podcast on Twitter/X, whatever you want to call it, and Instagram at Behind Catch. And Stingray, where can we follow you on?
I'm on just about all the social medias at Sting Ray Robb, and Rob is ROBB, and Twitter/X is Sting_Ray_Rob. And then my website is stingrayrob.com. We have merch that just came out not that long ago, so you can go get your merch today. Or if you guys want to follow the NTT IndyCar Series on the Peacock TV app, is the best way to watch it live. Or come to a race in person. We'd love to have you out there.
Make sure to go buy some merch. You have Stingray sign it in person or whatever else, but we still need some diecast at some point so I can put it
Yes,
over
that's on the
here.
list. That's on the list.
Hopefully soon. Well, make sure to tune into Long Beach or the Acura Grand Prix at Long Beach on Sunday, April 21st at 3 p.m. Eastern on USA Network and Peacock. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you next time.